And, this is the time when people in a coalition government they start to position themselves. They start to position themselves, don't they, for the next election. Well, another issue that's been kicking around, of course, is the announcement that people who are on golden, entrepreneurial visas to New Zealand, who basically have bought their way to be able to spend more time in New Zealand because they're rich as Hades, people with these so-called golden visas are now, so they're non-resident, are now allowed to buy residential property in New Zealand, one each. They can buy or build, valued over $5 million, which a few years ago would have made everyone's eye water. But in the way that economies and inflation work, isn't actually, I would imagine, as unattainable or as high-end as we might have thought 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So to find out what impact this change, $5 million plus property ownership exemption, residential property for golden visa holders, to find out what impact that might have on the market, I thought we should go and talk to someone who's in that kind of upper end of the property market. And, of course, to do that, you go down to Queenstown. Actually, someone who also understands a bit of politics because he's a former MP. Hamish Walker from Walker & Co Real Estate joins us on the blower now. Hamish, how are you, mate?
Good morning, Sean. Just having my coffee here, a blue day sky here in Queenstown, looking out from my office, and there's a bit of snow on the Coronet Peak up there in the Remarkables, which is a nice change because there hasn't been much snow in Queenstown this winter, which has been a bit of a shame.
All right. But you have, since leaving Parliament, been very busy. And I often see you with, bang, this for sale, or this sold and this sold. And I guess you're in a place that does have a few properties that are 5 million plus or in that ballpark.
Yeah, we do. So take Queenstown and Wanaka, we would have, I just looked at the stats actually just before I came on air, there's been about 72 sales in the last year above 5. But if you go to, say, Auckland, there's been basically 440 sales in the Auckland region above 5 million. Now, just a caveat on that, that's all sales apart from rural sales and commercial. So that's sort of residential lifestyle, but that also includes sort of bare commercial blocks. So down here, we're roughly just under 10% of sales above 5 million. We do a few, but nowhere near as many as say up in Auckland.
Okay. The question then also is how many of these golden visa holders are there? I guess.
Well, there's been just over 300, I think, come through this year. Of these golden visa holders, it's still pretty new. So if you were to ask me what impact the announcement has sort of had in the last 36 hours, so the first night I had 3 emails from America. Interesting enough, 2 out of the 3, they were sort of more interested in just investing the $5 million to be able to buy the $5 million home. But I mean, I guess the impact that it's had, it's just created a whole heap of sort of confidence in the market that these buyers are going to come through. Obviously, it still has to go through Parliament, which will be hopefully by Christmas. They're talking, I think, November. So it hasn't had like a direct impact yet. But if anything, it sort of just helps the confidence of the market.
But that does have an impact because people will be wanting to get in so they've got one of those properties that they can sell to the desperate golden visa holder, right? That would be the smart move.
Yeah, so that's what I mean by confidence. It's helping people sort of transact now as opposed to sort of waiting. Because what usually happens, people jump off the plane, usually from places like Auckland, Australia, America. Obviously, they can't buy until recently, but they normally come 1 or 2 visits here, and then they come back, usually a second or third time and buy. So those ones are actually jumping off the plane now, and I think they'll be the ones that actually transact as opposed to visiting a couple of times before buying.
Now, Hamish, we are talking just hundreds of people, though, of course, more people with this restriction lifted may become golden visa holders, right?
Yeah, possibly. Like I was having lunch yesterday with they're one of the largest investment firms in the country, I think they've got roughly about 35% of the 300 golden visas that have come through so far. They're expecting best case scenarios about 800 or 900 by Christmas, but their predictions, I think they're expecting about 500 or 600 in total by Christmas. So that gives you an idea of numbers or forecasts anyway.
All right. Now, Hamish, so we're still only talking a quantum of hundreds of buyers in what appears to be, from the information you give me, 10% of the residential property market. This isn't earth-shattering then on those figures.